All right, I think we should be good to go. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight for the Choose Your Path series. Once again, we have another person from the Pokemon TCG coming to join us to talk about his experiences, his growth, and their paths that they've taken through the Pokemon TCG. So sit back, relax, and tonight we have JavaAkuma joining us. Java, if you'd like to introduce yourself. I just fixed it. I realized my... Oh, hold on. That's what I was going to say. It shows that it's working over here. Let me... He's messing with us. Give me one second. Let me see if it's just this. I had to do this. I think I changed one setting with Pokemon Wonder when we were using the Streamlabs version. And I'm wondering if that's actually causing the issue. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I know people are like, what is going on? The screen's shifting. I had to remove something when we were using the Streamlabs part of it. And now I decided I don't like that version because his is all choppy and jittery, so we're making that adjustment. Now, let's try it now.
Okay. Can everyone hear me in the chat and stuff?
There we go.
Should be all right.
Showing you're moving. Hopefully everybody can hear. Once again, why don't we just restart this? I'll cut that out on the editor on YouTube and get rid of this. But once again, we're going to start over for everybody out there. Apologize for that. A little bit of a technical issue starting off. It's never alive without a technical issue, right? We always got to have something go wrong.
True.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Once again, we'll just redo the intro. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again for a Choose Your Path series, where today we have JavaAkuma joining us, giving us his path and the directions he's taken in the Pokemon TCG to find success. And tonight, we're going to have him go through the questions. We're going to do this live. We're going to use also live chat questions, whatever you guys have for him. This is a great opportunity to pick his brain, maybe talk about things that you want to know that he's done or where he's found success. And if he's willing to share that, of course, that's greatly appreciated. So, if you'd like to, again, do a quick introduction as we now have sound on you and we can hear what who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So, I have a channel here on YouTube. A couple of years ago, got back into the hobby during the boom, kind of when everyone else was dipping their toes back in, when everything was going crazy. Watched a lot of Twitch streamers open vintage boxes, and really nostalgia wave hit me, and so I decided to dip my toes back in with Darkness Ablaze, pulled the Charizard VMAX in my first box, and then it was kind of history from there. And about 2 years ago, it became kind of a growing side business, and I primarily work in flipping graded cards, not a whole lot of sealed product, but now I also have a space that they consign to me, I guess is how you would say it, where I get to sell locally. It's like a four foot table top, pretty small space, but I get to sell singles and packs and stuff like that locally as well. So I kind of am dipping into a lot of different, sections of selling in the Pokemon hobby, but primarily it is the graded flipping that I'm doing at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, I've watched your videos, and like we talked beforehand, trying to find specifically what you do, and it was coming down a lot towards the graded end. You talking about your things with going on a PSA, of course, your general just moving into discussions on PSA grading cards and that kind of stuff on your channel. So that's kind of where, like I said beforehand, we were trying to decide if it was singles or if it was graded, what specifically was the path that we were going to talk about, and that's why we're kind of going with the graded path, not right now, but if you do have questions on anything else in the chat, of course, put them out there. We're going to go through and actually talk about things that come up live here, and that way we can help you guys out too with any of the questions or directions that you're looking for. So before we get into the question side of things, I figure we'll just do a quick acknowledgement of the chat. Once again, we have some really good familiar people that come to the channel quite often with iFOMO. We also have on the chat, we also have James from the Alamo City. Thank you so much for joining us. Mason Barry's hanging out with us. We got Sam Branton sitting out there. Thank you so much for joining us. And last but not least, we got Grim the Nerd sitting out there. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Greatly appreciated to have you guys here. And once again, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button throughout. And if you have questions and have ideas or things that you want to know, definitely put them out in the chat. We will continue to scan them as we go through. Try and keep it somewhat pertinent to the part that we're talking about. But, we don't want to go completely off stream or off in a weird tangent. But definitely throw up the questions that you have about any section that's going on at that time. That being said, of course, the purpose of this is to do kind of an interview format where we can sit here and discuss how you've done your path, where you found success in your path, what you found important to that success, and how you've continued to move forward, or what possibly your plans are in the future in the path that you're currently on. And the purpose is just give people a general direction for some ideas that where they may want to fall in the hobby, what they may want to be, what they might find, and maybe shorten their path a little bit so that they're not, like some of us, really lost at the beginning trying to get our footings and figure out what we're going to do. So with that being said, are you ready to jump into the first question of the night?
Absolutely.
All right.
I'm ready.
So let's get into it, and we'll get started here with question number one. What do you do currently and or before getting into buying and grading and selling graded cards?
So
do you have a career outside of it? Is this like a side, or is this a full-time thing?
So this is a side business thing that I've been growing over the last couple of years. I am a full-time web designer for a local company here in like the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I've been in web design since college, so about 5 or 6 years now. Took a long time to get my butt out of college and bounce around a lot to different universities. But after getting the degree, went straight into kind of web design. That's where I've kind of been an artsy person since I was a kid, and my dad's in graphic design. So it just kind of naturally led that way into the web design field. And so I've been doing that since. So, and then Pokemon became a side business. 2022, beginning of 2022, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's where just kind of looking at, what do you do outside of Pokemon? Because most of us in the hobby aren't really full-time, even myself. We have careers. This is kind of a part-time thing. We try and, make a career out of it and make a business out of it. But, it's kind of interesting to hear the different backgrounds and where people come from when it comes down to, where you're starting out, where your path is going. So thank you so much for that. The next one is what progression did you make in Pokemon before focusing on graded cards?
So Pokemon started for me when I was very, very young. Basically started with the video games. I got a Game Boy Pocket, and it was a red Game Boy Pocket, Pokemon Red. Started from there and basically played every Pokemon game up until Scarlet Violet. Couldn't really get into that one, but I played all of them up until then. I don't know if I'm growing out of them or if they're just changing too much for me or what it is, but it just didn't hook me as much as the other ones did. And then cards we collected, me and my brother collected the cards when we were kids. And then I think the Neo era is where I dropped out and then focused on sports, mostly like football and basketball, because those were the sports I was playing in school. So I was more attached to that at the time. And then, like I said, kind of like 3 years ago now during the boom, it was mostly opening stuff. And, but you watch all these guys and they're always touting all these big prices and stuff in PSA 10. And so there was a part of me right when I started that was like, oh, I wonder if I could actually make money doing this. And then I made the worst decision possible. I opened a bunch of modern product at the time that was super, inflated. The grading companies were taking way too long, but I still thought if I sent all my big pulls in from a case of Vivid Vultures that I opened, that I could make money off of it. And quickly learned that is not the way to do it. And then, found channels like Jake and Dan, Pokenomics and Dan, Catch 'em All Collectibles, and really kind of dove like headfirst down the rabbit hole of that, business side of the Pokemon hobby on YouTube, and just started my own journey from there, basically.
So on that journey, and you're talking about learning from other YouTubers and things like that, and I think that we've all done that in a way, because I do know when I first started, I think we all make that mistake, especially during the early boom stuff. You get that price, you see like Leonhardt throwing out these big prices for the pulls on top of these cards, but yeah, when he's opening it pre-release, yeah, the prices are of course that high, but it makes that excitement. And I will say a lot of people got that excitement, and even my son had that excitement where, even for myself, you kind of had to reel him in a little bit and kind of show him, hey, that's not really what's going on. And the realization is that PSA right now, even if you did pull a Charizard from Shining Fates, the chances are is that you're not going to get it back from PSA for 2 years. So that's not going to be nowhere near that value by the time that card comes back. That's just the tendency of the market.
Yeah, I remember thinking when I was opening the Vivid Voltage at the time, like people were paying absorbent amounts of money to get like the amazing rares back, and they were selling for over $100 in like a 10. So I was like, I can do that. I can open, there's at least 2 amazing rares in each box of Vivid Voltage. If I open a case, I get, 12 of them plus all the other hits. Like, it'll easily pay for that box. And then by the time I actually got them back, they were like $25 to $35, 9.5s or whatever. And it was like, okay, well, that didn't work out. Let me try a different way,
And sometimes that's kind of why the series I kind of started it, was because, a lot of times people just see what's going on YouTube, and you run into PokeRev, and you run into Leonhardt, you run into these people that run these numbers, and a lot of times too, when you're starting this path, sometimes the information like you're giving now in different areas can really set people go, okay, maybe I need to reevaluate how I'm looking at this and say, okay, so this is the situations we run into, or this person ran into. Maybe I can learn from that and not, maybe run into that same mistake, because like a lot of people in this hobby, it's really, really good that for most of us, we want to help. So our mistakes are on our sleeves for anybody to learn, to try and not do them. I'd rather see someone be more successful and outperform me and do better than me than run into the same mistakes and watch them fall around for a long time trying to get their footing underneath them.
Yeah, I think we share sentiment in that, because my channel is all about as being transparent as humanly possible. Like at the end of every month, you're seeing my spreadsheet, what sold, what didn't, what sold for profit, what I lost money on, the grades that everything got. You're seeing all of my returns, everything that I buy, like everything is as transparent as possible, because, it's lucky for me that Dan and Jake and those people were transparent in the beginning so that I could learn from them. And now it's like, now that I've kind of gotten not really close to that point, but I've gotten close to that point, just at a very small scale. Hopefully I can help others, and we can all just kind of learn from each other in the process.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, the more that we can give knowledge and more growth we can have in this hobby, the more successful it is. If people get frustrated and leave, nobody gains from that. At the end of the day, the better thing is to get someone knowledge to be more successful where they want to stay. I'd rather see people stay in the hobby than see them just disappear because they got frustrated at situations that they were running into. So
yeah, I agree.
And once again, Jake is always, I've always enjoyed watching Jake and his information. The way he presented it was always fairly good. Yeah, I will agree that some of it came down to one thing I never did like about Jake, and I'll be 100% honest because he was on here, was the fact that he always talked about vintage was always going to be the top no matter what. And it's like, that's a hard call to say that, because it all comes down to when people fall into a hobby for success. But overall, Jake's information on how to look and the perspectives of things were right on. You need to look at these things in these open eyes and realize that, things aren't really doing or exploding and aren't going to hold these values. These values aren't guaranteed. You could have them today and they would be gone tomorrow.
Yeah. It's definitely a different conversation depending on the timeline you're looking at. Like the next 2 years, the newest Pokemon might be the most popular Pokemon. The next 50 years, the newest Pokemon now might be totally irrelevant. Like it's really hard to, pinpoint depending on, that timeline you're looking at as well, for long-term stuff or short-term stuff. And so that's why I like to stay in the shortest term, period possible. That's why I like to flip graded, because it's like, I buy a card, I'll send it off a month and a half, 2 months later, I sell it, and that's done with that transaction. I'm not holding anything for a long period of time and, taking on the potential risks with that.
Yeah, and I mean that's the risk we take with sealed too. I mean that's like even on my channel, I'm sure you've seen it where I've talked about I always try and buy enough to get the relevancy now, try and get it so I can put stuff away for long term. But there's no guarantee any of that long term stuff. You could wait probably 5 years, and yeah, Sword and Shield will probably be fantastic in 5 years. I don't see anything against that. But once again, it's that how long is it going to stay relative? How long is it going to have the hype and foam? How many long is people going to want this? Or could something potentially come up and within the next 10 years that changes the relevancy of that particular product? And now all the value you've put in there is now going back the other way because there's just no interest in it any longer. Not saying that's going to happen, but that's always the risk we take as a long-term look at any investment or sealed product or even slabs or anything that you're doing in the Pokemon hobby. It's all about relevancy and who's in the hobby at the time for what the value of those particular items are.
Yeah.
So, all right. Question number 3. What length of time did you do to get to where you are now in the hobby? I know you said about 2002, 2022 you started. And what progression have you made in that? I mean, has it all been just, you kind of talked about moving around. How long were in the hobby before you decided to really focus in? You started in 2022. How long did it take for you to really pinpoint and focus down on that graded card market?
I think it was around Christmas time of either 2020 or 2021 that I opened that Darkness Ablaze box. And then I think my focus was really on content. It was more, I wanted to I was doing video game stuff at the time and I was streaming on Twitch and it was just not the place where I wanted to be anymore. So I saw an opportunity. I was having fun with this. So it was like, let me just start making videos, opening product, kind of that Real Breaking Nate style of videos, take your phone to the store and just try and find some product because it was so hard to find at the time and then bring it back and open it, that type of stuff. And then it was really that experiment with the Vivid Voltage case that kind of kicked my butt and really, pushed me to take it seriously in a different way because I was seeing all these other people are making so much money. So it's like, wait, how are they doing it? So then I, kind of figured it out from there. And then 2022 is when I started to track, like, these are all the cards that I'm buying. This is what I'm buying it for. And then this is what I'm creating it for. This is what it's selling, kind of creating those spreadsheets and figuring out whether or not I'm actually making money. And that first year was I was at a different job. I wasn't making as much money. So my budget was very, low for me at the time, which it was between like $300 and $500 a month that I would buy singles with and grade with. So kind of had to factor in all the fees and everything to that $300 to $500 and make sure that it could work. And then at the end of that first year, I think I had $24,000 in sales or something like that first year. And when I started year 2, it was, okay, I don't have to use my personal funds anymore. I can use my business funds that, and all my personal funds can now go to savings. I don't even have to touch it. I'll just use my business funds. And so, $500 a month turned into $1,000, $2,000 a month, buying singles and stuff. And then at the end of last year, which was year 2, I had, on eBay, I had like $84,000 in sales. And I think at the shop, it was like 12 or somewhere around like 12 or 15,000 at the store. So right around kind of that 6-figure mark for sales. So, and this year, hopefully we can scale even a bit more. I've decided to go the way of, I think, creating more barriers between you and what's easy for people to get into. So those first couple of years, it was like, a lot of the character rares, you buy them for $3, you get them in a 10, you sell them for 40 or $50. There's a decent little margin on them, less risk if you focus on popular Pokemon. But now I feel like everyone's doing that. And I've seen the prices of those character rares are like $25, $30 now in a 10. So there's really not a whole ton of margin there. And so I was like, all right, I'm confident now. I've got 2 years, track record of growing and, doing decently well for myself. Let me start buying like $50 to $100 singles and kind of really scale that up and put some space in between me and a lot of the other people who are just getting into it, and then, kind of go from there and start scaling that way. So
Yeah, that's part of the reason why, earlier this year I kind of talked about how I've been kind of scaling away from graded cards, just because, number one, I found a different path for myself that's been working a little bit better when it comes down to overall sales for what I've been trying to do.
mhm.
The second part of it is that it's getting harder and harder to source cards. Unless you already have a really good source network already built up for them particular cards, towards the last end of last year, so many people have been shifting into graded. That seems to have been where everybody had shifted gears. And once again, you just said it exactly. You got to find a way to separate yourself away or be slightly ahead of the group of people that move. Because when people see success, all of a sudden everybody starts funneling to that, and pretty soon it actually just disrupts your business more than anything. Even though you might have really good rapport for that area, or you have a lot of things going for you really well that people, or good sourcing for those things. The problem is then you get into bidding wars for the sourcing cards. Well, normally I was buying this cards for about $5, $10 a piece. Well, now this person's offering me 8. Can you do 9 or 10? And then pretty soon it just keeps going up. And that's what I was seeing a lot of towards the end of 2023, is that there was getting to be so many people coming in. I'm still grading. I'm still, like you said, I'm moving up to those little bit higher tiered cards and trying to get those ones that you can't buy a lot of them, but if you can get success in them, there's a really good payout potentially, because a lot of people like buying those $5, $10, $15 cards, even the $20, $25 cards, but they don't want to buy too many $50, $100, or $150 cards to try and
Yeah.
source that way. So it reduces the amount that I'm bringing in. It reduces the amount of cards I'm grading. But on the other flip side of that is there's still decent potential for big turnaround on some of those cards if we can source them and get them through. So
Well, and it might suck to hear for people who are just getting started and have limited funds like I did a couple years ago, but the more money you have, the more risk you can take on, the higher value singles you can have, the more you can play with, and that's going to set you apart just from the get-go from people who have limited funds. That's what I'm seeing now, is I can take on a lot more risk on $100 singles, $50 singles, than someone who only has $500 a month. I would have never bought $50 to $100 singles before. I probably would have never spent over $20 on a single before because of how limited my funds were. So when you start scaling, you can start taking on more risk, and you can start, as long as you're confident in what you've done so far, and that can you can kind of hurdle over the different blocks, because the blocks are getting lower and lower and easier to jump over. Like grading's as easy as it's ever been. It's quicker than it's ever been. Sourcing cards is easier than it's ever been. People more confident in using places like Buy, definitely more confident in TCG Player, stuff like that. So it's, the more hurdles you can place between, hopefully that, helps growing for sure.
The more gates you can put to slow people down, the better off that you're going to be at the end of the day. Just at the end, when it all comes down to it, you got to find a way to, number one, stay ahead of everybody. Whether that's going to the high end, starting to spend more money. Right now, if I was, and this is what I've learned from grading in the last 6 months, 8 months, is that if you are looking for getting into the grading market and you want to take a run at it, I'm with you. You probably should save up some money and start going after those higher end singles to get graded. The lower end stuff, anything that's like 50 and below right now, are getting very, very difficult to. They're getting sourced all over the place. There's a lot of them coming back, and they flood the market extremely fast when they come back from PSA. So then you're in that race to the bottom game, where, like you said, like the amazing rares, the longer it took for those cards to get back, the longer you see that profit disappearing. And we can see that with a lot of new releases of products. The first Roaring Moon comes out and it's $1,000, and then your card, you pulled or got one 3-4 days later, and it took an extra 3-4 days on the other side of grading, and all of a sudden that $400 card is now $200, and then another week, by the time it sells, it's down to 130, and you just slowly watch it trickle away with those cards. While if you go for some of the more rare, like Sun and Moon, back further, more expensive, more unique cards, then the chances are, is if you can get them back as 10s, you're going to have better success. It's going to end up being a little bit better, and it's going to be a little bit more lucrative, but there is high risk too, because once again, you could send it to PSA and get a 9. Well, the 9s, sometimes sell under the value of a raw. So you lost the price of
Yeah.
the grading on it right away.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Definitely.
so it's all risk and reward. But like you said, the more hurdles and gates you can put between you and the other people in the markets, that's definitely going to be the bigger advantage.
Yep.
All right. So we're going on to number 4. What was the final deciding factor that made you start focusing on the graded card market specifically? Was there a certain turning point or something that really stood out to you to do that direction versus just singles or just opening packs or stuff like that?
I think I had one big PSA submission that did really well that I got really excited about and was probably it really kickstarted my ability to put more money into it. I bought a bunch of singles off of Bai early 2022, and I went to Japan. I think it was around November, maybe 2021 or 20. I forget, but I was in Japan. I remember I was in a hotel in Kyoto. I was just standing there, and I got the email that came through, notification, your grade's already at PSA. I was like, oh boy, that feeling when it's like, oh, let's take a look. And so I look and I start going through the grades, and I'm like, I got so many 10s, and they were, these mid-era Japanese level X's and primes and stuff like that, and it was just loads of 10s. And when I got so excited, I was like, I just want to go home because I want to start selling these things. And so I got back, started selling them, had a huge first month selling all those cards. My profit margins were insane. And then I think that really injected some confidence into, kind of just replicate it, keep doing it, keep sourcing, keep doing it, and use the money you just got, that big injection sort of from that first big submission, and just see if you can keep doing it. And it's like, and I've just kept doing it, I guess. But yeah, that was probably the big turning moment.
Yeah, and it's always really exciting when you get that first big sale or you get that first big successful, event or campaign that you're working on in different places for sure. And that's, like I said, it's kind of the same thing with me going into more of the TikTok and the breaking on there, using the store, and actually a lot of my sales on TikTok come from selling sealed product. I have really good success selling through the TikTok shop for sealed product. The TikTok, breaking is always nice because it just gets you in front of the customers a lot of time. And I actually, you do YouTube long enough and you get that persona where you can, actually have a discussion here and the camera doesn't bother you. People, I always like it that on YouTube, some people always say it's just real easy to jump in front of a camera, and it's like, you'd be surprised how much that mentally messes with you, that you think that the camera's there, that it's just you and a camera. How hard is it to do that? And it's like, yeah. You get that persona in your head that there's possibly 10,000 people potentially watching this video, and it's like, it ain't so easy anymore, because now you start. But once you get used to it, it's just nice, because then, like even TikTok, a lot of my sales, even while I'm opening packs, is people are buying sealed product off the shop too. It's just a way to get in front of the people and the customers to actually interact, and it kind of gives them a sense of, wow, he's good. I see him on the camera selling me something, especially in the Pokemon market. The more relatable you can come to someone, the more success you can see, and that's really been like that turning point where I'm like, this could actually work, and this could actually be fairly good and a lot of fun to do this. And it, like I said, January, huge month, absolutely gigantic month. And then now, like we were talking about beforehand, February, but this is normal, guys. I just did a video about this last month at the end of January, that February tends to be a very dead month. This is actually a time of the year when we start looking for sales, because businesses need to have generating cash. So a lot of times there'll be some good deals and stuff out there too, not just in Pokemon, but even our business wise. We start looking for like new vehicles and that kind of stuff in February, early March, because you beat tax returns. Once tax returns come, it completely changes that market.
Yeah, I think I made a joke, I think in my latest like profit loss, and it was like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have my best month ever followed by my worst month ever. I don't know how I'm gonna feel after that, but I'm pretty sure that that's gonna be the case. And it's gonna be a interesting juxtaposition of videos presentation. Oh yeah, best month ever, massive sales, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely my worst month ever.
This sucks.
Yeah.
It ends up being like that every single year, and it's like, since I've been running this more as a business for the last 2 years, you continually see that trend just continuing to occur. The first month is, January is always fairly strong because people get Christmas money. There's still deals and stuff. People still have money, but then, like they always say, January 24th is usually the dead period of when everything dies, because that's when people got all their credit cards from January, late December. All their credit card bills come in. They're like, oh, all that Christmas money is all of a sudden gone to that. And then, of course, they're trying to get their tax return. So February is just always a dead end of January, and through February up until that first week in March are really a little bit slow. But if you see a really good January like we did this year, I really do have hopes that when people get their tax returns, I think that there's a very good market potential coming up here in March for sure. I think we'll see it pick up pretty strong again.
Yeah, one thing I feel like that keeps me confident is at the beginning of this year, I started listing some raw stuff on eBay because I had some more vintagey raw stuff that doesn't sell as well at the shop up there. So I was like, I'm just going to start posting this stuff on eBay. I'll try and do like 2 or 3, listings a day and try and keep it consistent. And honestly, the raw stuff has sold quite well for me. Even into, January did really well. February's been pretty well for the raw stuff. And I just post a couple sell here and there, and that's been really solid. But yeah, those higher end stuff that that stuff's been sitting for a little longer than it did in January, at least for me so far this month.
Yeah, and even like we were talking about beforehand too, just before that, my TCG sales have been just pretty consistent. They've just been keeping moving. They've been trucking right around just about the same all the way through January and February. So yeah, that raw cards are still selling really well. We're still moving those, even bulk. So trainers and people are probably revving up for April too coming up. They got the rotation coming up there in April. So people are changing their decks. They're trying to modify their decks. So we are seeing really good sales on like the trainers and even Pokemon 151. Or Scarlet and Violet 151. That is selling really fast. Anything I put up for Scarlet and Violet 151 is just getting eaten up. And especially reverse hollows, and just any kind of the EXs and that, they're gone. They last about less than 24 hours typically, and they clean out. So yeah,
that's a hype set.
It is. It's a very hype set, and whatever you can get out there right now. And guys, if you are questioning and you think you have a lot of bulk of like Pokemon 151 because you opened a bunch of it, definitely think about just opening up a basic TCG player account, because they are selling, the reverse rares are selling extremely hot. A lot of them are, even for reverse rare, running about $2, $1.50 to $2 on quite a few of the reverse rares, which is actually pretty impressive being this far from the release of a set. Typically they lose value pretty quick, unless it's a trainer or something that has deck value. They usually don't hold value this long for just regular Pokemons in that reverse rare slot. So yeah, they're doing really well. So we're seeing some really good things in raw still, which is why I have a lot of hopes that March, all that stuff will probably break free at that point in time.
Yeah, I think selling graded primarily for 2 years, you don't get to see a lot of the raw sales. So you're like, there are collectors out there, of like binder collectors and stuff. I guess I just don't really get to feel like how many there actually are, because I'm more like a slab seller. So the people who are buying the slabs are slab collectors, but there's lots of binder collectors out there that want to finish those binders, or they want the rare from Aquapolis, that I have sitting in the box over there, and it's just been there for a year, and it's like, I should probably just post that on eBay. Someone will want it. Yeah. And surprisingly, the stuff sells really well. Yep. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the more vintagey it is, the faster it moves. So even when I buy binder collections with bulk and stuff like that, it's amazing how quick the vintage stuff it turns around really fast. So even in the raw forms, there's a lot of people that are just trying to finish. I know a lot of individuals just in the hobby and even around my area here at LCS and like local town and their trade nights that are just into it to collect binders. They are literally just binder collectors. They don't really care about a specific Pokemon. They just want, they have a favorite Pokemon, but they collect the whole binder. They're trying to finish up the whole set. So like trade night, there's a person that comes every night, and they were working on Obsidian Flame, and now they're working on Pokemon 151. So they're slowly working up each binder that they come there every trade night trying to find that EX they're missing, or that full art that
Yeah,
they're missing, just trying to trade with for something that they have to try and finish their binder. So it's really cool to
yeah,
see
that's
that
awesome.
still alive and doing well. It seems like it's a decent market, so it's glad to see. It's good to
Cool.
see that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
um, one quick thing, thank you, Dan, from Catchball Collectibles, joining up on the emoji level on the channel. Thank you so much for doing that.
awesome.
Want to hit that? Let me check the chat real quick. We'll take a quick break. I didn't see very many questions coming through. The only one that I saw from Ernie was I've heard Java is now stacking pallets of Time Magazine 2024 edition. For
I
the
don't even
large.
know where do you get those, but they're cool. I would
Mm-hmm.
like a cover of each if I could find them at a store or something. I don't know what store actually carries them. Do you have to go to like Barnes and Noble for that or something? Or
They had them in Walmart in the magazine section.
oh, okay. Well,
So I got
yeah.
the Pikachu and the Squirtle one from. I don't know if there's. I haven't looked into it. Is there more than just Pikachu and Squirtle? Because they had those two.
I think they have all four starters:
Is it the
the
four?
Charmander,
Okay.
Bulbasaur. Yeah.
I didn't see Charmander or Bulbasaur, but Walmart had the Pikachu and Squirtle. So
Yeah, I'll have to
mine
check.
did. So yeah, no, that's kind of a cool little thing that they did. That they actually did. I kind of figured they did all four starters, but I didn't think that they would skip the other two, especially Charmander. That'd be kind of
Yeah.
a big miss for them.
Yeah. But no, I don't have I don't have pallets of them, unfortunately.
Just stick them in the side in your corner of your room.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're down to number 5, and number 5 is a question I added in midway through doing the Choose Your Path series because I thought it was a really good look into possibly a little bit more of the harder sides of the Pokemon TCG when we're doing these businesses and these opportunities. And that is, what was your make or break moment? And what I mean by that is, was there a moment in time that you reached where you questioned whether or not you should continue moving forward? Or is it just time to maybe stop doing this because not seeing the profits, I'm not seeing what I want, I'm going backwards? And if so, how did you work through that to get back on path for what you're trying to do?
I don't even know if I have worked through it yet. I think there sometimes to me there can feel like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it. And it's like, yeah, the money goes up, which is great. That's awesome. But like, what is it going to lead to? Like, is it going to lead to going full time? Is it going to lead to a store? Mason doesn't want to hear me say that, but is it going to lead to, something bigger than what I'm doing now? Like I like seeing the number go up in the bank account, but is it leading to anything more than that in life? Like, how is it going to change my life more going forward? And so, I don't know if I have, I get in lulls like at work where I get frustrated with something and I'm just like, I had, X amount of sales last month. I could just, quit. I'll just quit and then have my worst month ever the next month. But yeah, I have that thought all the time of like, where is it leading to? Where do I want it to lead to? Where does it need to lead to? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think about that stuff all the time. Because some of it, all that stuff feels very out of reach. Going full time feels out of reach because of insurance and all these things that everyone tells you. Starting a store feels out of reach because the overhead and the costs that you're not thinking about and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, well, if the natural progression is just more of what I'm doing and the money number goes up, that's great. I could take more trips maybe, or I could, do something with that money. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm probably having an existential midlife crisis or something, but but yeah, I do think about like where it's all leading and, all this grind, like what is it all going to come to,
Yeah.
But,
And like I said, that's why I like asking that question because, a lot of times we get to places in our lives and in our businesses and whatever our endeavors are at that point in time. And sometimes we have some really good big questions like that. What is my ultimate goal? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Is this where I want to go? What am I doing with this when it gets to a certain size? And am I willing to quit my other job or my career to come and do this? Is it worth growing it that big and trying to push those things? And that's why that question kind of came up, is because I think, personally myself, being almost 40, I've gone through, a couple career changes, as a typical millennial any longer does. And I always find it interesting that, I get to a point in a job, and the one problem is that my dad's always worked for himself. I worked for my dad, and then I also ran like my own stuff on the side. And the part that I always say is probably the most difficult for me is that I always want to make the call and be the guy that makes that call. Have no problem being up front and being the guy that's willing to take the hit and make the call to do something. And that's where a couple of my career changes came from. It's like, yeah, I just can't work for this any longer. I can't have 5 managers over top of me pushing down. And then you make that decision. This is a hard point. Either A, I'm going to work through this and continue doing what I'm doing, or is it just time to, pack it up and just change what I'm doing to do something different? And that's the nice thing is partially this being a hobby business, is that if I'm frustrated with it, there's nothing that says that I can't just, like talk Pokemon Wonder, you can't just shut it down. I can go to TCG Player at any time and just shut it down. I can go to TikTok and just shut or put the store on pause. With it being a hobby, it's not like I absolutely have to make money here. It's nice seeing the bank account grow and being able to have that money to send back out or, expand and do more. But it's not necessary, which is a nice thing in that back of your mind sometimes, as it being a hobby, that, there's always an off button on this. And if I stick with everything I got, it doesn't hurt my feelings at all. This stuff could all stay here for a year, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings, and I don't have to deal with the business side of it. I can just enjoy my collection, sit back, relax, have my Flareon collection, have my Mewtwo cards and my binders, and just relax. There's no reason to push it. So I think that's part of the good thing about it.
Yeah, I just try to think about it as like a day by day thing. Like, is it making me happy? Like when I hear the cha-ching from my phone from eBay selling something, do I still get endorphin and adrenaline from it? Like, oh, I gotta go ship something. Let me see what I just sold. And yeah, it still makes me happy. So at the end of the day, like it's still something that provides, joy. I love hopping on Buy-E and sorting a bunch of cards and getting that PSA, submission back and sorting and listing and selling and it's all very fun for me still. But yeah, sometimes I do think, what's the end goal? Sometimes you don't have to have an end goal, I guess. If it just makes you happy every day, then maybe you don't need an end goal.
And that's what I would say to it is that personally, I don't really have an end goal. As long as it keeps being self-supportive. I'm to the point in this where, last year my goal was to take no money out of the family account, and that was the number one goal. And now this year it's just like, if I can take some of it and actually be able to put it back out into the family unit, kind of replace the money I've taken over the last 4 years to continue growing and have all this stuff. It's just nice to be able to do that and move, have that confidence that, hey, if I need a little extra cash to go on a vacation, so like I said, I'm going to North Carolina for Collecticon. That's one that I said,
nice.
It's great. I have the money in the business. I don't have to go and try and take money out of my savings or doing that stuff. I can just go, yep, I'm gonna just do it as a tax write-off on my business anyways. I'll go there as part of the, meet with people, do a video there for YouTube and show things off, and then that way I cover my business side of things. And it's just, you can sit there and do those things but not have to worry about disrupting your family unit to do it. So that's always a nice overall thing to look at when it comes down to it.
That's awesome. So we're going to see you in Charlotte this year?
I'm planning on being in Charlotte and Chicago this year.
Oh, nice. We'll see you at both then.
Chicago's a given. It's only 4 hours away, so I'd be silly not just to drive that one. So that's actually the closest it's ever been to me. Otherwise, every one of them's kind of flying distance or, long trip. Because what is it? Yeah. Kansas City is probably the closest one that they have where it was borderline driving distance because it was like 10 hours away. So
it's a long drive.
It's a long drive, but I don't mind driving. I hate flying. So North Carolina, I'm going to end up. We're still trying to decide if we're going to drive out there because my grandparent lives out there in Tennessee. So we might just go there like the week before and then the weekend go down to, it's only like 3 hours away from there, and then go and then come back the next night up back to her place. So that was kind of the discussion we might be doing on that too. So use it a family trip and then go visit Collecticon while we're there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I'm gonna try and meet up with a bunch of people. It's been a little bit since I've gotten out and actually done that, so it'd be fun.
Awesome.
Real quick, once again, thank you, Ernie, for the joining the emoji level on the channel. Thank you so much for the subscription and the membership. We do
Thanks,
have two
man.
questions sitting here. Felipe, thanks for joining. He put on here a question for both of you. Now that Japanese sealed is setting in a reasonable price frame, are you considering Japanese sealed holds or ripping for singles more than before?
Ripping it for singles, no. Ripping it for fun, yes.
Yes.
Sealed holds, I've been potentially. I've been thinking about. I actually bought a case of the 2 new sets and then a Shiny Treasure EX. I have an event coming up in the next 2 weeks that I'm gonna try and flip some of the boxes when I'm there for whatever they're going for on eBay, and then whatever is left I'll probably just hold on to until future collecticons or whatever, and then try and sell the rest there. But I feel pretty confident when I'm buying stuff for. I think I bought the 2 new sets for like $38 a box, and Shiny Treasure EX was like $45 a box or $43 a box or something like that. So we're getting down to retail price for Japanese, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
In 2 years of it being just through the roof right when it comes out. So yeah, I've been pretty happy about that. There's definitely more things opening up in that realm than were there before. So definitely.
Yeah, and I agree. I've been looking more and more into it. I actually did buy Shining Treasures EX from there. That was a lot of fun because I opened some of it for fun, trying to chase some of the baby shinies, and small hope I get the Bubble Mew in Japanese or the Charizard, which is very, very small.
Yeah.
But even so, I mean, there's been a lot of it available on even the U.S. market for. I picked up Shiny Treasures EX even here on the U.S. market for $52 a box.
Yeah.
So that's incredible for a high class set like that. That's an incredible price compared to what we've seen, previously for the prices in the U.S. Even for the high class sets, especially, it always seems like they shot right to 90 within start out 70 and then they're at 90 within a week or two. Sometimes they go up to 110, then they get a reprint, they drop back down to 70, and then they cruise back up. And Shiny Treasures EX has been a little bit different. Seems like that Japanese market #1 seems to have cooled a little bit on how fast they're selling. It just from what appearances are, I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't really talked to anybody down in the trenches there, but I do know that Pokemon Center's made it more difficult. So even like the high class set, you couldn't buy a booster box from the Japanese Pokemon Center. I found
usually they do lotteries where you put your name in for a lottery and then you might get picked. Usually you don't get picked, especially if you have an address from Tenso, I think is the shipping company from Japan to the US. I don't know if they have that marked, like don't choose these folks, but I've never been chosen for a lottery. When I was in Japan, I mean, this was like a year ago now, so it might not be relevant, but when at the Pokemon centers, they would rip the box there. So they would rip the plastic off. You basically had to open it. You couldn't, flip it or sell it sealed anywhere else. I don't know if they're still doing that or not, but that's what they were doing at the time. But yeah, I mean, I think I looked, it was like you said, it was like 50, it was in the 50s for Shiny Treasure EX, which it seems like those sets are following kind of the English pattern now, where the pre-order price is a little bit higher, and then a few weeks to a month after they come out, the price drops pretty heavily. But historically, specialty sets do pretty well over time, so it'll really depend on how much they printed of that one. But yeah.
So I know a guy that's from the channel, and he's out there. I met him here on the channel. He's actually out there for military in a city that has a Pokemon Center, and he said that now what they're doing with Shiny Treasures EX is that you can only buy 5 at a time, 5 packs at a time. So what they're doing is, they're cutting the box and giving you half a box. That's all you could take out of the Pokemon Center. So yeah, that's what he said. You couldn't even leave with a full booster box. You'd have to go and then come back, and then they, if someone bought the other 5 packs, they'd cut another box and give you 5. But he said they wouldn't give you the box even for, if they'd just sell you 5 packs. That was it. So
that's rough.
It's like Pokemon Center there is really cracked down on the amount of sealed product that's leaving. Because I know like because he sent me V-Star Universe while he was there, from there. He sent me 4 boxes of that, but he said the issue is that they don't have the cellophane on them. So they cut, Pokemon Center took the plastic off of them when they sold them, so they couldn't resell the box as a sealed box. So I said, that's fine. I've got it behind me, as display. It's just like, I got 1 box left of the 3. I think I did a giveaway on the channel with with 2 boxes, and then I opened 1 box for myself for fun, and I kept 1 just to have a box of it, which is just kind of sitting there. So
yeah, I wish I had picked up a case of that when I think it was down in like the 60s, 70s. Definitely should have picked up a case of that, because that's just an amazing set. Like,
it is.
It's beautiful. So, but not anymore. It's up in like the 80s, 90s now, I think. So
yeah, it's gone up quite a bit, and it moved up after that last reprint. Yeah, they did restock, reprint, whatever it was. It dropped down to like 60, and then after that, it went right back up. So
yeah,
because the only one I have is the one right before that was a V-Star or VMAX Climax. I got a case of VMAX Climax behind yet. I picked them up at $63 or $64 a box, but when that second reprint they got, that went down to like that mid 60s, and I bought a case. I didn't do that with V-Star Universe. So I was already tied up in other things, and I was like, could keep the cash and get a little tight, but I'd rather keep the cash fluid and do some other things right now.
I don't have a good history with keeping things sealed, so spending that much on a case and then having to hide it from myself somehow is not we might start doing that in the future. We'll see.
Well, I just said it. I'm getting a hankering to open up those right above my head there. You can see the EV gym boxes. Ooh. Yeah, you know how hard it's been. Since I said I got to almost move them back out of this room. I had them in the storage spot, and I brought them in here because I'm like, these are really nice displays. It's nice. One of them items I really do enjoy, and it's like it's got the things that I would really enjoy in the boxes for being an Evolutions fan, anyways. Yeah, I might have made a mistake on that because I really want to tear one of them boxes and get into that booster box of EV Heroes inside of there.
And it's got the Espeon, right?
It's got the Espeon promo, and that was the only way to get it in Japan was to get that box. So
yeah, that'd be rough.
So far, I've kept my fingers out of them. So got another question here from Grim the Nerd. What are your thoughts on the rumors of reducing print runs for some sets this year? Hard to track, but I'm curious what sets it could affect. Also, could just this be a rumor? I've heard rumors, and this is what I've heard so far is that they've already partially done it on Paradox Rift. So I don't know how true it is. The distributor said they got less product of Paradox Rift, and they said that Temporal Forces is even less than Paradox Rift coming in. So to say it's a rumor, I'm not going to say it's confirmed that it's happening or not, but that's just from the distributor side is that they said the number of boxes coming in from Pokemon have reduced. So Pokemon will compensate. I mean, they have to. They can't continue if they want the sets to be successful. And not blow out their distributors right away. They have to adjust somewhat for the market. I mean, if it's sitting too long in the market, they're gonna have to make adjustments. Because I know the distributors just said that they still have some Paradox Rift. They have some Scarlet and Violet base sets still. They still have a lot of the first year of Scarlet and Violet still sitting in storage. So that it is moving. It's not as fast because like they were saying, even a LCS can go buy off a TCG player cheaper than they can buy from their distributor for a booster box. So they're not really moving right now, and Pokemon will have to adjust somewhat, and they will. You'll see them make solo tweaks. We saw it in Sword and Shield where they would make adjustments. They would have a short print on a set like Battle Styles, and then all of a sudden they do a print to order, and sometimes they back down on one, and then if demand is more and it sells fast, they'll restock that stuff or they'll reprint that. So they are constantly tweaking the scales. So would I be surprised if that rumor was true? No, not at all. I would actually 100% expected as we continue to kind of come into more of a normalized market that they're going to have to, and they will. I mean, Scarlet and Violet obviously has slowed down the market quite a bit for the newer sets. The older sets are still doing well, but newer sets are definitely what's being printed, so they might slow that down. But they had no problem printing Paldean Fates.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder if they would go to more of like a wave system that they used to use, where like they would kind of space out their allocations more instead of, because if you're dumping it all at once, it could just taint like any sort of drive or want to open a product or buy a bunch of a product that seems to be so overprinted. So maybe it makes more sense for them to be like, oh, we'll do like half of our normal allocation and then we'll do another half of our allocation. But I don't know. I don't have distribution, so I you know better than I do on any of that stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, I just got in with partial distributing on that part of it. So it's not like I'm not like top tier. I'm not doing, like I said in the last live about it, I'm not like Mason pricing. They do have it. My distributor I'm kind of going through is, I'm not like on the high demand sets. I really can't get much allocation. My allocation is like bottom of the barrel, what's left over. So, even pricing though, even the older sets, they have on the site, they currently have Paldean Evolved. I didn't see Scarlet and Violet on the site set, but wasn't really looking for it. But they had all the booster boxes, but they're selling them all for about $97 a box right now for booster box. And it's like, why am I going to pay $97 booster box when I can go buy Obsidian Flame right now for like $88 off of, eBay with free shipping? I mean, it's a tough call. I mean, it's just tough on that fact for even LGSs and that, or not LGSs, but the distributors. So yeah, I can definitely see them wanting to tweak them adjustments where the distributors aren't completely buried in product. That's just going to be a normal situation that I would see happening.
Makes sense.
But I won't confirm that rumor is true or false. I don't know. I'm telling you what I just hear from them. It doesn't mean that they're not just going to go all of a sudden, like you said, go to the wave system and right before, 2 weeks before Temporal Forces, they don't dump a whole bunch more Paradox Rift and completely bury them again like they did with the other sets. So you don't know what Pokemon's going to send out the door, and I don't even think most of the time that the distributors have any idea what's going out the door.
Yeah, and from a personal perspective, I look at the Paradox Rift and like the newest set, and I don't know anything about the playability. I haven't played the card game. I played the tutorial on the online card game, but I don't really play the card game, so I don't know from that point of view. But from like my own collector point of view, the Paradox Rift and the newest set don't really have like a massive chase. I guess the what's the Pokemon called? The Salamence.
Roaring Moon.
Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon was the big card from Paradox Rift. It probably still is. But some of that was playability, right? Wasn't that card?
Roaring Moon is
that card index?
Fairly playable. The other one that's good is Iron Hands. A lot of people I've seen have been doing Iron Hands decks now. Roaring Moon decks are kind of somewhat competitive against the Charizard EX deck from Obsidian Flame because they build fast because it's a base Pokemon, so you're pretty much starting off right with a Roaring Moon if you can get it out of your deck right away. So there's always that little bit of advantage too on that particular card. So yeah, there's good playability to a couple of the sets in there. Chase wise, Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon are your two top chases inside of there. But yeah, I'm trying to think. My deck has a couple trainers from there, and I don't remember which one. So they have a couple trainers in there too for my decks. My Charizard EX deck has a couple of them in there. So
okay. But yeah, I feel like they gave us a full art in the newest Japanese set of Gengar, but they didn't give us the special illustration rare of Gengar. That would have been pretty sick. Definitely would have been a chase in the new set.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you wonder why those cards disappear, why they don't actually put in that special illustrator rare like that for Gengar, because Gengar would be a huge chase, just like we're seeing in Fusion Strike.
Yeah.
It just continues it's up, $230 now for that Gengar again. So it's moving fast.
Nope.
There was one last question here that we're going to go before we move on to the next question on the Choose Your Path. Brown CLM, thanks for joining. Thanks for the question here. He says, what's the lowest price you think Scarlet and Violet sets will go? And then he put on here booster boxes. And personally, for me, I think they've already probably hit that, bounced up, unless they get a massive reprint. Because they were Scarlet and Violet, most of the boxes dropped down to that mid 80s. Base set at one time was down to almost 79. I think it was some places you could find were like 79, 80. I think that's probably the lowest you're going to see them go at that point. I mean, I could be wrong, but in even Sword and Shield, that was kind of the lowest that you'd ever see a booster box go. Even Sun and Moon, you really didn't see booster boxes drop below, $80 for very long, if at all. That just wasn't very common. Sometimes 75 for a short period, and then they would bounce back up. But I think that's probably the low. I would think that's the lowest you're going to see.
Yeah, I think the lowest booster box I ever bought was off TikTok. Those TikTok coupons during the holiday were insane. So I picked up a few boxes, I think high 60s, mid 70s maybe for on some of the 25% coupons on, $79.99 or whatever it was for some of the sets. So yeah, I think with those, you can definitely get some really nice deals. I don't know if they're doing them as much as they were anymore, but
no, they slowed down on TikTok sales. They do have one coming up. They're having a spring sale coming up, but they made it a little bit more difficult for all shops to get them. So you have to actually work for them now. There's like campaigns and things that you need to do as a seller in order to be able to get those coupons. So it wasn't like Black Friday where everybody just got the coupons and you could use them wherever you wanted. Now they've gone more to us as sellers can get them, but we have to do campaigns and things through our lives and our videos to earn those. So we got to put so many shorts with a certain hashtag on them in order to get qualified for those. So they've changed a little bit, and then from what I understand, they'll bring them back every Black Friday through Christmas. Like Black Friday, Christmas, they really push those coupons for that shop growth. But throughout the rest of the year now, it's more of you got to earn it a little bit as a seller to get those coupons available on your store. So, which is good too, because if you're doing the campaigns and doing the shorts and doing the work, then your customers and the people that would buy from you are getting the advantage of it from the store specific, which makes them a more draw to your store versus just find the cheapest price and buy it with the coupon and get it even cheaper. So that's kind of slowed down, and it's gone more to the store specific.
Okay.
So, but yeah, they are out there. So if you look for certain stores, March 1st, there'll be another round. We're working for the campaigns right now to get the March 1st coupons for that. So moving back on to the Choose Your Path, since we've taken a little bit of side road now, not too far. We stayed pretty close. So, question we got here coming up here is if you can, in a way, can you estimate the hours you work to the income per month on your TCG grading parts? So how many hours do you work roughly to how much income you make? I mean, if you had to guess per hour or per month, what do you make? It doesn't have to be exact. I mean,
I think I did this at one time. I was trying to do a comparison of like my hourly flipping versus like the progress on some modern sets. I did it for like a live thing. I think it was like 26 or $27 an hour or something like that when I calculated it before. But that was a while ago. That was earlier last year. So I'm not really sure at this point. Hours wise, I probably put in way more than I think I do, because of the working from home and everything. I get to double dip every once in a while and take a look at some Bai on my lunch break. So, so apart from that, I would say maybe 20, 25 hours a week, sourcing and listing and shipping. And then I'd have to do the math, but when I looked at it before, it was like $25 to $27 an hour. So I try to keep it above like a second job, because then it's like, why don't I just go get a second job? why do this for, what feels like a second full-time thing? Because it's constantly consuming you're doing content, you're doing, all that stuff. And if I just worked at Target for 20 hours a week and made the same amount, it'd probably be less stressful to some degree. But yeah, so I like to make sure that I'm well above, $15 an hour or whatever I could get somewhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And from what I've heard now, and I'm just gonna put after so many episodes, I mean there are some extremes where people make a lot more, but it seems like you know we're typically right around that 20 to 35. Seems like most people kind of come in at about that range, as doing this as a hobby, that's what they kind of come up with. So you're right on target for what seems to be what I want to call almost an industry standard right now for
Yeah, yeah.
Pokemon is that like Dan at Catchmall Collectible said it was a lot higher for him, which he does. He pushes it's full time. He's pushing a lot of different areas. He has a lot of money and a lot of risk out there with what he's doing. So yeah, I mean if you do want to take a lot of risk and a lot more money ventured out there to try and do that, yeah, you could probably way outperform that. But in general, as a hobby where you can't really focus 100% of your time on it, it's not the only thing you do. It seems like we're all coming in right around that $20 to $35 an hour range. That seems to be the pretty consistent number. So I was just kind of interested after so many episodes where that number would kind of fall, and I kind of watched after Pokemon Wonders, and that's where we were kind of. It seemed like everyone I asked was right around there. So, and that's kind of what I'm figuring out right now is where I'm at too. It's coming out to be about $22 an hour, $23 an hour right now is what I'm kind of running for my time put into. But I don't count a lot of times the YouTube stuff because, I always sit there and that's always, maybe you could put your thoughts in on this because I'm kind of interested here now after a couple of conversations about this. So I don't typically count YouTube into my business format. And the reason that I don't when I'm figuring my pricing is because, be 100% honest, Pokemon or YouTube on Pokemon is actually kind of irrelevant and not really a moneymaker for me. It's not intended to be money making. I'm intending it to be informative. I'm intending to be out there and try and help people. And my intent is completely different with the YouTube market. It's not. I don't expect a return on this particular market versus like a lot of other things that I'm doing. So I kind of avoid this out and say that this doesn't really count because of the fact that it's just, I'm intentionally knowing I'm giving my time away for it.
I look at it the same. I mean, unless you're, I wouldn't even, I don't think anyone in our circle could go full time on their YouTube, even the higher end of our circle. There's no way that could happen. Just based on, I mean, I think I had, you look at some of your recent performing videos. I think I had like a 400 or 500 view video. It was like $1.87.
Yeah.
It's like, that's definitely not going to make money based on the 4 hours that I put into editing and recording and all of that on there. But it is fun, and I do feel like sometimes when I make like a PSA return video and I'm like, oh, and all these are up on my eBay if you want to take a look at them or whatever, I do feel like when that video goes live, maybe a couple days after, I get a couple sales on some of that new, and that could be from the video, it could just be because they're new on eBay and people are looking at them. But there's the marketing aspect of it too that may or may not help, in the business side of things. I mean, it's definitely helped me. I have multiple people who are, I have multiple people who live in Japan who are talking to me all the time about new stuff and price fluctuations and stuff like that, and constantly helping me with that. I've got some people, I've met people who have definitely been very helpful for me, doing certain plays through the YouTube, because I probably wouldn't have met those people, in that way otherwise. So I think it benefits in other ways, but it's definitely not the moneymaker.
No. And that's where I, like my wife even says, well, you got to count YouTube. And I'm like, I can't count YouTube. I said, I have no intention of making money on YouTube. I said, it'd be a complete wash. I mean, like you said, it seems like sometimes I talk about TCG Player, and of course my link is down there for my TCG Player shop. And like you said, sometimes you're talking about TCG Player and you say, you can visit my shop if you're looking for singles or something like that. And it seems like you might get a little bit of a spike, but for even TCG Player, it's usually like trainers and stuff. So it's like a $12 or $14 spike. It's not like it's a, oh my goodness, we can retire on this, honey. Look at how much, it's not something that's really occurring, and nor is it the intention. So, yeah, I don't really count my YouTube time into that, just because the fact is that I feel I'm donating it, and it's me talking to the community, talking to members on the channel. And like you said, the one benefit is that I have met people too in the community, like you said, especially in the Japan side. It's really difficult to get contacts there unless you know someone there. And
Yeah.
meeting some people on the channel that live there has really been a benefit when it comes down to that. I've met 2 people that live there, and they're really good at trying to give you information on what's happening in that current market. Like I
Yeah.
said, I would have never known about the Shiny Treasure ZX that they were only selling 5 packs per transaction. So they have to
Yeah.
then they cut the pack open and give you only 5 packs out of it, and it's like then you look at our English market and we're buried in Paldean Fates. I mean, even still, it's $38 right now, $380, $385 for a case of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy just what we're seeing right now when it comes down to Paldean Fates. But Shiny Treasure ZX, they were limiting the amount that they were taking out of Pokemon Center.
Yep. Yeah, I've had some really obscure stuff come over. Fairly recently, someone that I know pretty well messaged me and was like, "Hey, have you seen these really obscure like hollow stickers that you can get if you go to this Japan website? And if you win, you get a chance on getting a hollow sticker sent to you in the mail. And people are grading them at PSA, and they're selling pretty decently." And I'm like, "No, but now I do." So I went on and bought a bunch of them.
Not thanks. Now I'm gonna go buy them.
And now they're at PSA, and we'll see how they do. But yeah, it's just like I would never hear about those things if it weren't for certain people in the community, like reaching out and being like, "Hey, do you know about these? You should look into them." It's like, okay, I will. Nice, thanks.
And it's even like comments on videos sometimes. Some people, you sit there and read the comment, and it's like it's a whole other perspective of something you were looking. You might have even disregarded it sometimes, like not something, and all of a sudden you'll revisit it like 2 months afterwards, and they'll have a comment. It's like, really? It's doing that now? You go back and look at it and go, holy crap, just all of a sudden this whole thing changed. So,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of, like I said, I just don't. I was curious if you counted it in your time. I really don't. It's just something I do for fun, and it's a way for me to talk to people in the community and just have, keep community awareness and things like that, and then just talk about things that are happening currently. So
I have adjusted the way that I've done YouTube to try and make it not take up so much time, because I'm doing it now where like I do a live stream every week, but within that live stream I try to cover like 3 or 4 different topics, and 2 or 3 of which I'll cut into a video that will go live the next week. So I don't have to sit there on Saturday morning with my coffee, like record 2 videos and then edit them. It's like I can just go live, talk to people, talk about some topics, and then cut it together into videos for the next week. And it's been a bit more streamlined the last couple of weeks. It's something I'm just trying this year.
Yeah, and I've actually, if you've been watching mine, I've been doing that too. Usually my live is based on a topic, and then what happens is the next week or the next day will actually be like an extension of that topic, like a real breakdown of that, and then
that's cool. Yeah,
and then Friday will be another like a more extensive breakdown of it. So I kind of use the live as a kind of a jump in, unless it's like a something that's going on in the community. Then of course it breaks down into something else. But typically I try and do my live on Tuesday is kind of a lead in to the other 2 videos for the week that's coming up. So
yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, we're kind of doing a similar thing there. We're kind of using the lives to interject into our, like you said, then it kind of reduces that amount of editing time and that recording time because you're already in the mindset, so you can just run through it.
And it's just more fun. You get instant feedback. So if you're saying something during the topic that is wrong, or if there's more information that you don't know while you're covering it, you can get that from chat and people who have even more of an ear to the ground than we try to have with stuff on YouTube. So it's definitely just a better back and forth environment to do recordings and videos from. So
okay. So just a correction down here. Moments with Nick just came on, and he put on, it depends a bit on the place in one. Maybe you can say that town. Okinawa. Okay.
Yeah.
You could get 2 booster boxes of shiny treasures at the Pokemon Center, still in the shrink wrap, removed though. So they removed the shrink wrap just like they did with Shiny Treasure GX.
Yeah.
Or
they may do it a bit differently because Okinawa is where the military base is, so they may do it because there's more foreigners probably going in and out of that shop. They may do that one a little bit differently than other ones, I think is maybe what he's pointing out.
Yeah, and it could be because I know that there's more than one Pokemon Center in Japan, so it just depends on which one you go to, and it could be when he was going to. Closer to the release, they may have done it one way, and then they backed off on it because, we got plenty of stock now, so we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, true.
So they could change their practices, too, throughout it, so. yeah, it's just interesting. Thanks for the information on that Moments with Nick. Greatly appreciated. So now we're down to the next question here, which is question number 7. What is one mistake you made that you could advise others to avoid when working in Pokemon graded cards?
In graded.
Well, you could do Pokemon in general.
Yeah, I know that I mentioned it earlier, but obviously opening product to try and make money. That's like the base foundation, like no. I feel like everybody does it when they come in though. They're like, oh, I will break this booster box and I'll grade everything from it and I'll make money. And it's like, no, you won't. Jumping in too hard, too fast. I think I bought the very first collection I ever bought through a Japanese middleman website was a $2,000 collection, and I didn't understand like how descriptions are written on those websites. I didn't understand any of that. So I ended up paying like $300 in shipping or something ridiculous, $2,000 for the collection, and I get it in and it's all creased. Like there's creases, there's bends, it's all destroyed. And so I had to limp my way out of that. I thought it was a great idea. Like, oh man, I just found the mother load. And it's like, no. So I would say, temper your expectations, especially when you go on those Japanese websites. I try to warn people, like, it is not the land of cheap, pristine cards. You can find some cards for decent prices, just like you can on eBay and stuff like that. But it's more risky, and it's like it's not this place, full of magical, cheap, high-end cards that you're just going to make a bunch of money off of. Because I feel like when I started, I felt like that was kind of if you can figure out these Japanese websites, you can make a bunch of money just bringing stuff over to America. And it's like, yeah, you can sort of, but it's not easy. It's definitely risky. It's not super easy. And yeah, so I would say that don't jump in too hard, too fast, and be careful when you're on those Japanese websites because it's definitely more risky than you think.
Yeah. And that's probably one of the reasons why I really haven't jumped into like Buy or any of those. I do use them. I don't want to say that I never buy off of them. Of course, if I'm looking for something in Japanese, then yeah, you really have to if you want to get it straight from the market. And some of them specialty items, it's the easiest or quickest way to be able to find those particular items. But yeah, I would say that's a really big thing is just temper your expectations, especially in the singles and graded market, because especially coming from the Japanese market, because you don't know what's going to come in that box until you get it in hand. And sometimes I bought a couple things off of there, and that's probably what's made me cautious early on. Is bought probably I did about 10 orders in like a 6-month span, and out of that, I think 7 of them were complete junk. It's just like you're buying off them sites, and the pictures look great, everything looked great, everything looked awesome, and then you open up the box, and it looks like they took the box and then just shook it really hard and then threw it in the mail, and it's like didn't put anything in sleeves, didn't put anything, and it just got completely scratched, bent up, beat up in the box across from Japan. So they threw it in the box, no packaging, just the cards in the box and ship them. It's like, no, that's not good. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely if you're going that route, really temper your expectations when it comes down to that, because it doesn't come like you think it does. Especially when it seems like they find out it's going to U.S. or something. It's like they don't care.
Yeah, I had this wild thing happen in Discord. This was a while ago. I don't know if he's still around or not, but he joined the Discord, and then immediately, like, he was talking about the market, and then one of his first things was, my first purchase into Pokemon was $13,000. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Why? But he was like looking at, trophy cards and like all this stuff. And it's like, okay, that's kind of a different market. But at the same time, your first purchase that big, like that just shocked me. I was like, I hope my videos didn't lead you to spending that much on your first purchase.
I hope this wasn't my decision making or my discussion that did this too. Ooh. Yeah. No, that's it. Starting out, I took 4,000. Like I said, started off with $4,000 and saw what it did. And, it ended up doing really well because I did that back at the end of 2019. And we all know what happened in 2021. But once again, Black Swan events really can accelerate things. But, the only thing is, like I said, even talking to Nick from Old School and Dan at Catch 'em All Collectibles, really for a lot of us, 2020 just kind of accelerated what we were doing. We were expecting to do this stuff maybe a few years down the road, build a clientele, and then 2020 happened, and it took everything that we were like, oh, here's our 5-year plan, and then all of a sudden we did it all in a year. And it's like, oh, well, crap. That went a lot faster than what I was ever hoping on doing. But, that's just the things that can happen. And I wouldn't expect it to happen again. I think that's a huge... If you're expecting a Black Swan event like 2020 to happen again, you're going to be waiting into maybe another 50 years before something like that occurs in the Pokemon hobby. It's just...
Yeah.
It's not also possibly a once-in-a-lifetime event to have all those things with stimulus money coming, with COVID, everybody locked down at home, with, Logan Paul doing what he did right at that time. I mean, all them things just led to a perfect storm situation. It may never happen again. And if you're expecting or waiting for that Black Swan event thinking that's going to be your moneymaker because it happened once, it may never happen. You may never see it again. So don't make that as your big play. Don't make that your mistake to think that you're going to wait it out for the next Black Swan event and then you're going to make millions of dollars on this stuff because you're probably not going to see that happen. I would not put any money on that happening again. Let's see. I got one question here that came up in the chat from Brown CLM, and it was, I was going to ask the 3 worst plays investments you both made. Could be a set, a single, or anything. Would you like to go first, or you want me to put one out there?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I got one sitting right here. Now, I didn't pay the price on the sticker. These stupid boxes. I got a hell of a deal on these things, and I still got screwed. They have gone down in the last 2 years since Pokemon Go's come out. That's the one that first sealed that I just... They were on sale at GameStop. They were doing 3 for a buy 2, get 1 free. So I got them for like $31 a box from the 49. It's like still got bit. Pokemon Go just in general has just kind of just been a flop. Nothing goes on it. I thought it's
just so weird.
I know,
because I feel like it's got all 3 starters in Radiance. It's got the Mewtwo, which I think is cool. Some people don't like the CGI artwork on the Mewtwo, but it's got Dragonite. It's like it's got the Pokemon, but it's like nobody wants it.
It just doesn't. I was like this thing. I'm like, okay, this is a Dragonite V-Star. I said Dragonite's a popular character. I was like, cool. This will be kind of a cool little nostalgic thing that might drop a little bit here on release and possibly come back up. Now that thing is just gone. Now you can buy them at $25.50 right now on TikTok and eBay. Yeah. It's like they just keep dropping. Nobody wants the things. And that's a tough one. I'm glad I didn't go hard, and I only bought 6 of them. It's not like it's a huge oopsie, but because I just picked them up at GameStop and they had like piles of them, and that should have been my first hint. But for me, when I see a buy 2 get 1 free, it's just like typically you get that kind of a deal or you get that kind of opportunity, you can usually break them down or twist them somehow or do something with it, within a year that you can do, make some come out of it with some profit. But no, that's one of them that I've got.
I feel like I've mentioned most of them already. I guess one that I haven't mentioned is it's another Bai. I think it was my first purchase on Bai, maybe my second purchase on Bai. I bought the Mario and Luigi Pikachu full arts, and they were like $200 for both of them. And I should have known right then that
red flag.
They were fake. And so they come in, they're fake. And I just had to eat that cost because there's no buyer protection on those websites, so just had to eat that $200. But that was another learning experience. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. That thing you hear all the time. It's true, but
yeah. I mean, that's one of them that you can't do anything about that up on the website. And then out of the 7, that's once again, I'm just gonna put buy E all into my second one, which is of course that just ended up being a whole 7 for 10 had fake cards, or their cards were all beat up. So that's a big learning
Yeah, that's
experience
rough.
there for big mistakes. That's kind of why I've kind of gone away from that market. I mean, I would like to get more in the Japanese, but at this point, I'm almost willing to pay the extra, even in the U.S., to get them on eBay around here or locally sourced than actually going through buy E, just because, yeah, you can get a good deal, but there's no guarantee. And like you said, if it comes damaged or it comes fake, you're just SOL. I mean, you can't go and do anything about
Yep.
it. So that's one of the situations that I have too. That's You're getting into it. If you want to take some risk and you have some money to play and do some risks, you can take some shots at it. If you want to be more secure, then stay away from buy E. Just source it locally with the United States. You might pay a little bit extra, but at least you got guarantees. But if you buy them from here, that's a big factor when it comes down to those.
Yeah. Big difference between eBay and those middleman sites for sure.
Yeah, huge differences.
Big difference. Yep. Yeah, otherwise I feel like I mentioned the other ones. Opening an entire I bought a Vivid Voltage booster box for $220 during the boom. And I opened it because I thought it might have the Pikachu.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. I feel like I've made all the mistakes. I don't know. I feel like the grading actually has been pretty decent for me throughout. Once I kind of got into it. But yeah, it's buying things at the worst times because of FOMO or feeling like you're gonna be the one to get the 1 in a million, on the cheap, Mario Pikachu or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and the only one I can think of is selling all my stuff in 2006. If I would have held on to that, even then I went back and forth on whether or not I should sell it, but I got a good offer for it back then for all the stuff I had, because I had sealed booster boxes from everything from base set all the way up through, EX era. But Pokemon was losing a lot of popularity even in 06. There were some new people coming in for Diamond and Pearl, but in general, I was like the last holdout that was actually still playing and involved with it up until from 99 in my group of friends. Everybody else had pretty much retired and moved on and did different things. And so
Yeah.
I was just looking at it and going, do I want to carry? Plus, the other part I was thinking about it too is, am I going to be able to keep the stuff together, with me moving? Because we were, I was moving from the city I was in to another place, and I didn't know how many more times I was going to move between there. And it's like, is this stuff really going to be in any shape to be able to have any value to it? 'Cause even back then, I knew that they would have value. It's just you question how long that value, if that value will actually be worth the amount of time and effort keeping it safe and moving it. And the other part is too is that I know my tendency is that if I still have anything of it, I'm not going to stay out of it for very long. So I'm going to sell all my stuff. I'm going to sell down minimum, and if I keep some stuff like the booster boxes, I'm going to open them up. I'm going to get back into it, and I'm just going to have more expense to try and get back because I sold all my decks and everything, and then so I just eventually just went to the point where I sold everything then, and it's like, and like I said, I know the guy still has it, and the funny thing is he still has them. He has not sold my booster boxes. I told him I'll give you 20% off of what I sold them to you for. You make a 20% profit, and I get my boxes back. He just laughs at me. He's like, not a chance. So that base set box is $10,000. I sold that base set box for like $350 at the time.
Oh,
so yeah, I think he's made good profit on them boxes.
Yeah,
but hindsight's always 20/20.
When I first started flipping stuff, it was actually not Pokemon cards; it was video games, and it was when I was in college. My dad had taken out a Parent Plus loan for my first year at university.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big loan, and it was negatively affecting his ability to like buy a house, stuff like that, because of his income to debt ratio. So I sold this like massive video game collection that I had at the time to pay off that loan. But I started going through recently. I have a spreadsheet of all the games that I had. They were all pictured and everything. And everything is like 2 to 3 times as expensive as it was at the time. And so I think the collection was like between $20,000 and $30,000 at the time. And it probably during the boom, probably, I don't know, 6 figures. And yeah, that's definitely like, oh my God. But it was for a good cause. So,
Well, yeah, I mean that's just it. You had to do it
yeah.
to help him, and like I said, hindsight's always 20/20. You can sit there and
Yeah.
just like you could be still holding on to Beanie Babies and hoping that price will go up.
True.
So I mean, there's always the inverse of that too, where you can sit there and go, yeah, I could go buy Beanie Babies, or I could have bought this, and it did absolutely nothing. So even
Yeah.
sports cards, you could have put in the sports cards because they've been the more successful thing, and how many sports cards never get value either? It's just
Yeah, I've got books and books and books of sports cards in one of my closets. It's just binders and binders and binders of late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, all worth basically nothing.
yeah. I got a whole
yeah.
box that my mom just was cleaning out her one closet, and she had a whole box like of a box full of all my baseball cards that are in either binders or in sleeves or in the little stacker boxes that I used to have from back in the 90s. And I kind of pulled open the ones that I thought were good cards and had them all put away. They're worth like 2 cents. It's like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
It's like, yeah.
I think the only cards I had from that collection that were worth trying to grade, I think I had like 2 Tom Brady rookie cards, and they weren't like expensive ones. They were just like, at the time, I think I sold, I forget if it got an 8 or a 9. I think I sold it for like $100 or something. Yeah. It wasn't like crazy, but yeah, those are like the most expensive cards from that, thousands of cards collection from that era, just because if you didn't have the right parallel for the right rookie card that also had the patch or the autograph on it, like, it's basically worth nothing. Like you said, like 2 cents. So yeah, it's brutal.
I was going to try and find it in there because that box should have like a couple Brett Favre rookie cards and some like Michael Irvin rookie cards. Some of the rookie cards I did have in there, I'm just curious to know. That's in a specific binder though. So I'm really curious to see if that's going to hold value or not, or if any of them have any value. That'd be my best chance out of that whole box to have value.
Yeah.
So next question we got. We are down to our last 2. So this is the second to last. Number 1, most important thing if you consider selling and trading Brady cards. For example, community, networking, family backing, etc., things like that.
So like what drives me to want to do it?
Yeah, what's the most important thing that drives you to do this or be success, or that you find to make it successful for you?
I think I just have I think I just find a lot of gratification from seeing. I like when the effort I put into something directly either makes that thing good or bad. I don't have to rely on other people, or coordinate with other people. This is why work can frustrate me sometimes, where Pokemon is like great, because if I fail, it's on me. If I win, it's on me. And like, I am the arbiter of my success, basically. I don't have to rely on others for that. And I like the independent nature of it. And that brings me a lot of joy when I do have success, because I'm a person who, when I'm not on camera, very introverted, lack a lot of self-confidence. And through Pokemon and my success the last couple of years, it's definitely increased a lot of that confidence, at least in that area of life. And it's something that I just really enjoy doing overall. I really, really enjoy flipping. I've been doing it. I mean, I was flipping armor sets in RuneScape. Dan will love to hear that. I was flipping video games, going to garage sales and doing all that. And then now I'm flipping Pokemon cards. So I feel like there's always been that entrepreneurial aspect of like, way that I wanted to make money, or having a side hustle or something, that's always given me that joy in the process of it. So I would say that kind of encapsulates. There isn't really one thing like I want to, like we were talking about before, there isn't like a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just kind of like I like that I don't have to dip into my personal funds if I don't want to go on a nice vacation with my family or something like that, because I can my side hustle can facilitate those fun things that I get to do then, and it doesn't have to set me back 6 months because I have to save up for the ticket to go do that. It can just be something that I'm naturally doing on the side and then get to do because my success so far in it kind of provides that the ability for that to happen. So I would say that.
Cool. Yeah, no, it makes absolute sense. For that fact, I mean, like I said, for me, it's always just I want to help people. So for me, it's a community thing.
Yeah.
That's just personally my nature is I try to be very helpful. I like nurturing things, and to me, the community is a very important thing for what I do in the hobby, and why I'm even on YouTube. Why am I here on the channels, and why am I out there talking about things? Why is my computer freaking out? Sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It keeps like flicking up the back screen. I don't know what it's doing. It just like did it like 3 times there, and I don't know what. But anyways,
No, I agree with you as well. For the YouTube stuff, definitely. I mean, that's why I'm doing it at all. Is I'm just obviously we talked about it doesn't make us any money, so it's just fun to go on these shows and talk to people who are like-minded because especially for me, there aren't a lot of people. There are people around me that have interest in what I'm doing, but they don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like they want to know that it's successful, but they don't understand the ins and outs of it. So getting on Discord, doing these chats with other creators, and then doing lives and stuff and being able to talk to people in the community, all of that stuff is very fulfilling as well, for sure.
Yeah, that's always a nice thing, and the fun thing about this hobby in general too.
Yeah, everyone's so nice and willing to chat, and it doesn't like you can have a 20,000 subscriber channel, you can have a 500 subscriber channel. Everyone just chats with each other and hops on shows and stuff, and it's not there isn't this combative nature or competitiveness between channels. I feel like we all just want to hang out.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you have to have there's a tier system where people look at you and you got to have, oh, well, you're not 10,000 subscribers, so I don't want to talk to you, or you don't have 100,000. It's not like we even talk to a lot of stations and channels where there's similar content. They want to try and draw subscribers from each other. So, well, you don't have enough subscribers for me to really help me, so I'm not going to benefit anything from this. Doesn't seem like anybody in the Pokemon hobbies or space is like that. We like talking about Pokemon, we like talking about the hobby, and we like talking to each other about the hobby, and that's exactly what makes this so much fun, is that there isn't as much competitiveness. And no, if your channel doesn't grow, who cares? Still gonna sit here and talk about it. I mean, I'm not necessarily looking for 100,000 subscriber channel. It's never been a goal for me. It's just fun to talk. Jump on here with streams with like you or Pokemon Wonder or Dan at Catch 'em All Collectibles, and Mason Berry and just have a discussion about what's going on in the hobby that week or that month or what's been up since the last time we talked. So that always makes it a lot of fun and relaxing.
Well, there definitely seems to be like a tier system, like there is a certain point where I feel like as a creator, I don't know if it's a conscious choice or you just decide to be insulated, but like you don't really see like the PokeRev or the Pat Flynn or those people are really like succeeding in the YouTube space. They don't seem to really be dipping into the like kind of smaller time, like sitting down for an hour and having a podcast thing. And maybe it just doesn't. Maybe they're just so busy and it just doesn't make sense for them. But it would be nice if they did, or like spotlight smaller creators every once in a while, or kind of look down from the pedestal and see us all down here hanging out with each other, and I don't know.
Well, so, I mean, even like Pat Flynn, for example, he came on to Pokenomics Discord for the live.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So he came for that. Yeah. I mean, I think the problem is a lot of times is even myself. I'm always afraid to ask them. I think that a lot of times this is a smaller channel. Here I am, like a 4,000 subscriber channel. I think consciously you just have a really hard time to go in and talk to, some of the individuals like Danny Phantom or like, PokeRev. Pokebrev's even been on PK's channel just because of Cool Trainer Ryan and knowing through that channels. But even Rusty at TCA Gaming, he comes on and does little interviews or comes to like the Discords and things like that. So they do. It's just I think that a lot of times too, it's just the fact that we're afraid to ask. Because personally, I
Yeah.
haven't had for even Choose Your Path. I've wanted to make this series a little bit more successful and people can see a trend and see how it's working. Because I've always wanted to ask, like Danny Phantom. I think he would be a really interesting person on here to have this discussion with. What has he done? Well, how he's kind of described it, but really break it down for what he's had seen success. Even Pokebrev. You know, I always hear Pat Flynn in Pokemon. I mean, a lot of the Pat Flynn really hasn't been in Pokemon very long, but he has a very successful business mind for YouTube and for algorithms and things. So that's one of
Yeah.
his big advantages. So it's really kind of interesting. I've always just wanted to have those little talks, and I was actually gonna throw it out to see if I can get Danny Phantom on here because I thought that that'd be really cool to have Danny Phantom on here to really talk about these things and hear from him, in this kind of setting.
Yeah.
you know, so no promises, but I am going to be trying to open it up to even like Pat Flynn. I am going to try and contact him, but I know Pat Flynn is extremely busy with his side things too. So
Well, and they all seem like they all seem like nice people, just like us, like down to earth people. And the worst they can say is that they just don't have time for it right now or
yeah,
whatever, and then you just move on. But it's definitely worth asking. I do see it though because I think subconsciously when you've been doing like I was on Twitch for years and stuff, and reaching out to higher view count or higher subscribers or higher follower count creators makes you feel the perception of it is that you're leeching or trying to
yeah,
get notoriety from their success or whatever.
yeah,
But it's like we all just want to chat with each other at the end of the day. It's not really like you said, you don't want 100,000 per subscriber YouTube. You just want to hang out and have fun, and so yeah, I don't know, but it would be cool if they did.
yeah. I mean, Pokemon Wonder's gotten some really good people on his channel. He got Danny Phantom down there, so obviously it's possible.
Yeah.
And even iFomo said he wanted to know if we wanted him to ask for us. So but yeah, no, I mean that's something I've wanted to go to on this. But like I said, I want to get this stabilized a little bit and then get some of those bigger content creators. Really shoot for some of the bigger ones to talk about it. I mean, PokeVault, another one. He's had a lot of success in the last 2 years, even after the boom, continuing to push a channel and growth. So, these are
Yeah.
individuals I think it'd be really cool to hear where they started and how they've moved through. Because I remember PokeVault when his daughter and him were still opening cards. They were about, at the time they were started YouTube about the same time I did, and him and his daughter were opening Pokemon cards. So they were doing an opening channel, and then all of a sudden he kind of shifted gears too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so the last one we got. So we made it to the end here. This is usually a simple question, but it's always good to hear from the person on the other side. So number 9 is knowing what you do now. Would you still focus on grading cards, or would you change the direction you went in the Pokemon hobby?
Mm, I think I would still focus on grading. I think it adds a extra layer of, it adds an extra layer of risk, but it adds an extra fun layer of, it's another thing. How do I explain this? It's another aspect that you can actively refine. You can, there is an aspect of gamble because you never know if you're going to get a 9 or a 10 or an 8 or a random 6 in a submission. But it is something, the pre-grading aspect of it and all that, it is another skill that you can hone and refine, and it's just another part of the process that I really enjoy. I really enjoy getting those returns back and seeing the grades, getting excited about the 10s or the 9s that really hit, good margins, and I really like I just like the sourcing. I like it's a layer of difficulty that's fun, but I feel like can be surpassed with experience and knowledge and stuff. And it just keeps me on my toes when I'm looking at Bai mostly.
Yeah,
And it's just fun. I like the grading as I feel like to a certain extent too. I know a lot of people are negative on flippers because they feel like you're like arbitrarily increasing the price, or maybe like pricing someone out of a card that they could buy otherwise. But there's always a collector at the end of the day that's going to want that card in a PSA 9 or 10 that maybe they're not confident to send that card themselves, or take on that risk of sending cards. There's so many people at the shop, they'll email me and be like, I've got 10, 20 cards I want to send to PSA, but I don't want to send them myself. Can you send them for me? And I'm like, no, I don't, because I don't want the responsibility of that stuff getting damaged or going missing in the mail.
Yeah.
But they'll just be like, oh, I don't feel confident. I don't, same thing. I don't want them to disappear in the mail. I don't want to do that. But, we've graded thousands of cards, and it's like, it's most likely nothing bad is going to happen. Occasionally something might, but people are so afraid of taking that next step and that risk to do it themselves. So I think at the end of the day, to some extent, I feel like I'm providing a bit of a positive to collectors out there, because I'm taking on all the front end risk of getting that card graded in that grade, and then they get to enjoy it in their collections at the end of the day. So I just, the whole aspect of the process, I just really enjoy. So yeah, I would probably still go the grading route.
Cool. And yeah, most people do. I mean, when we pinpoint it, what we really do enjoy, we really don't change. We sometimes will adjust to the markets, or we'll adjust to what's happening. But overall, we just continue to just do what we do, and we're comfortable with it, and that's our most comfort zone, and we stay there.
Yeah.
It's what we like, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Yeah, and if grading goes like completely out of style, if the margins disappear, and if people turn away from it as like a part of the hobby, and they're focusing on binders now and stuff, and they don't believe in the grading process, and if that all happens, then we'll all have to shift gears, and we'll have to, like you said, we'll have to figure out a different avenue to continue, or we'll pack it up and be like, all right, this was the fun part, and the fun part's gone now, so
yep.
Who knows, but yeah, we just move with it as it changes, and hopefully we stay alive.
Exactly. Keep adjusting, making fine tunes, but usually stay at a home base.
Yep.
Other than that, that's it. We made her through. Overall, the last thing we got here is that I got the Pole Father. Hey, Java or Northwoods, do any of you have a first edition CGC 10 or PSA 10 Professor Oak? I do not.
Nope.
Nope, I do not have either one of them currently.
Unfortunately, nope.
Nope. So, nope, that's all that I've got. Like I said, thank you, Java, for your time. You got anything else you'd like to discuss or do? This is the opportunity to do so. I don't know if you've got anything you want to discuss or go over.
I don't think so. I do want to say, though, it is kind of funny because I knew of you, but I didn't know, I hadn't seen your stuff prior to this, but I followed you on Instagram randomly. And then you tagged, I think, on Instagram, Hayward, Wisconsin. And I was like, holy crap. There is no way. I just thought it was like a random thing. There's no way this guy knows what Hayward, Wisconsin is. And then I DM'd you and I was like, yo, are you from Hayward? And you're like, I'm not from there, but I work there every day. And I was like, this is insane. It was just crazy because Hayward, if you guys don't know, Hayward, Wisconsin is like a 2,000 person town. It's a tiny little town, northern Wisconsin. It's literally famous for just having a big giant fish in the middle of it.
Oh, and the Berkey.
And the Berkey, yeah.
You got the Berkey biter.
Ski race.
So,
but other than that, it's just this tiny little podunk place that I grew up in, and so it was crazy. It was one of those small world situations. Seeing that, it just blew my mind, and then hearing that you work there or you live close, it was really cool.
Well, living there. You probably know I live in Radisson.
Okay, yeah.
So
close.
I was gonna say right there. just down the highway. So it's a little bit smaller town, but yeah, it's close enough. But I do HVAC work, so I'm always in Hayward. New construction, all the tourists, and all that other stuff. So yeah, that's where I spend a lot of time. I usually run the northern route. My dad runs south. He runs like Ladysmith in that area. So kind of split the directions on the
that
service.
That blew my mind when I saw it. I was like, there's no shot. But then, of course, I'm like, Northwoods TCG. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
well,
it's all
yeah,
falling
probably.
together. Yeah, this
Yeah.
whole area is
I get it
Northwoods.
now.
It all falls together now. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy though.
but
But
well,
yeah, you would have been in school later than I was then.
I
Was it?
graduated high school in '04.
Okay, yeah. I graduated in 2010.
Yeah. No, I
But
I actually went to Ladysmith though.
okay.
I should have gone to Winter School District. It's technically what I'm in, but I went to Ladysmith instead.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah. Crazy. Cool though. But
yeah,
crazy.
absolutely cool. Small world for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But like I said, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it. Once again, the knowledge
Of
is
course.
just awesome to have. Once again, another section to it for people for reference and to know things to look out for, things to do, what's been successful, and what people can maybe use as reference for the future. So, thank you so much for
Yeah,
your time. Greatly appreciated.
no problem. Do you mind if I plug one small thing?
Go ahead and plug.
Okay, so on Sunday night, I think we're doing a fun little Pokemon trivia thing. It's going to be, I think, Mason and DeGreen Shiz going head to head in some Pokemon trivia that I'll be hosting over on my channel. So it should be fun. Those guys are hilarious. So hopefully it will be a fun little trivia game over there.
Let me know when you put up a post on it, either on Instagram or that, and I will post it up on the community page and on Instagram for you. So
Okay, cool.
I'll put it over there for you just to do that. I didn't
Yeah,
pull all
awesome.
the information just because I was running short on time. But I will be putting up all of JavaAkuma's information down below in the description here right after the video. So that way you can follow him on
Cool.
Instagram, on his YouTube channel. If you can, if I don't know if you got whatever other sites, websites, or anything that you have, you could always just send me that information too, and I can make sure I can get it all on the video. So you can follow him on all his social medias, follow him on YouTube, and then, of course, his eBay store and things like that, just so you guys can get that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely not a problem. Thank you for your time once again. It's greatly appreciated to sit down and have this discussion with you. I don't know who the next guest is. I've got a couple people I'm working on, but I got to ask one other person too. I've been kind of trying to work them into the rotation, so I will announce who's coming up next month for the Choose Your Path series, but we will find that out here in the next week here. I'll probably have a person lined up for that for sure. And other
Awesome.
than that, like I said, thank you so much, Java, and we will see everybody next time here on Northwoods CCG. And that is it.